How are we doing? Hey, how is life? How
What's
are
up,
you,
man?
buddy? Hey,
How are you? Can you hear
not
me okay?
bad, man. Hey, great to see you, man. Great to see you. Okay, maybe a bit intense, less intense than the sort of warrior kind of face from your site, but I will say overall probably better for PR because with that one, all you do is you just see, oh, that's a handsome black and white freaking okay. And so, but I would definitely like right off of that photo get a sense of, as I call it, your quintessence capturing style. You just
Uh,
get the essence of things, man. So
this
yeah.
is more like the tired dad.
Tired dad. It's cool. You can fluctuate between warrior and tired dad. It's fine.
Right on, right on.
All right, man. So how has life been, man?
It's been good, man. Are you in Australia?
Australian, that's right. I sense some. So you're obviously based in America. Do you have a
Yeah.
twinge of? I think I'm sensing maybe something Scandinavian. Is that
No,
you?
everyone thinks that. I've
Yeah.
actually been working with a Scandinavian company for the last 5 years commercially.
There you go. I
So
think.
it's funny. I'm like a fake Swede. No, I'm just a big, tall, Oafy American.
Oafy. I've not heard that phrase before. As
Yeah, yeah,
in, like for a while. That's cool,
yeah.
man.
I,
Well,
I studied. I lived in Australia though for 5 years. I lived in
okay.
Sydney off and on, and then Newcastle for a bit. My dad lived there about 15 years. So we spent a lot of time in Oz. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Nice, man. Well, I'm not smoke blowing here. I just want to say, like, you say dad, you straight up look like a uni student. I look like a tired dad. You look like you just started your first
I'll take
semester,
that.
man.
I'll take uni student any day, bud.
All right. Also, this is it's like it's a bit Christmassy, but it is actually a Gojira shirt, so
Oh, sick,
I
man.
had
Looks
to rep it.
awesome.
Yeah, they made this very interesting. It was like this kind of beast just like climbing on the moon. So I
Right on.
just think there's a bit of versatility
Yeah.
to what they're able to within the sphere of what they're doing with Gojira. But I love artists like yourself who define themselves by their eclecticism. You know, because it
Thanks, man.
means that you've entered that creative zone with an idea of I can go anywhere, but that's my identity. It's not the lack of an identity, like the variety is who you are. And I'm like, this is Russell fucking Bromley. Like, yeah, that's the vibe.
Right on, dude. Yeah. No, it's yeah, like I said, I've always been a metal fan. I've not probably like drifted away from it as much, but I think that like Joe and Mario, I mean, all the guys, they really kind of reminded me of. We kind of grew up, I feel like, as kindred spirits on different sides of the world, and so
Yeah,
when we met, it was like it just worked out perfectly. He was
I can
you
see.
just like care about the same things,
Mm.
um, into metal, don't have tattoos. You know?
That's
Like
cool,
the
man.
90s,
Well,
like the 90s straight edge kids, you know?
totally straight edge, exactly. And so I obviously alternate dimension. You wouldn't see any of these. This is I had my army accident. I delved
Oh,
into
crazy.
kind of you'll see it all around at my site and stuff. Basically, it's the idea that I kind of had to process a lot of like just some dark stuff, man. I
Right
had an
on.
army accident. They left me out on a firing range, and instead of getting like the typical stuff, I literally like sunk into myself about my relationship with existence. And I
Real.
found this, actually I started doing them intuitively these like long ago. And then I found the concept of morphogenesis. You know what that is?
Oh, I haven't heard of it.
I love this word. It's the manner in which nature creates patterns, you know?
Oh,
So
wow.
the unified electricity of, lightning strikes resembling trees, resembling capillaries in the human eye. So that
Awesome.
same, yeah. And so I did this, I was like creating stuff and then I figured, oh, wow. And so then metamorphogenesis, like
Yeah.
going into, yeah. So I ended up, but I genuinely, dude, ask my fiance, I had 5 tattoo removal appointments at one
Oh,
point.
my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like I'm not a Maori. I don't do the whole. I mean, I had to kind of with this thing of after the army thing figure out, okay, what am I doing? Am
Yeah.
I gonna just go full blown, or do I contain this thing into like just a project, which it is now? It's only 3, so
It's
I've
rad.
got one leg in the tattoo world, but very much I resonate completely with like you, Guji, and yeah, like Mario and Joe, and also Troy from Mastodon. He's like
Oh, yeah.
everyone around him is fucking
Yeah.
tattooed. Troy is probably
Joe's
gonna
like
guess
Joe's favorite, like one of Joe's favorite bands. I mean, my brother,
exactly.
my brother lives in Atlanta, so we love Mastodon and like, oh,
Okay, well,
yeah,
you are.
like it's like that southern. I feel like I'm nearly 40 now, and I feel like there was that window of like my brother's covered in tattoos and he's a skater and like we
Yeah,
both
yeah.
grew up going to metal shows and stuff. I just like I think I was too much of a surfer and I just didn't want to like
That's
spend
cool.
money I just want to
Also, I would appreciate if you didn't start the show by lying you're not 40. Can you just stop already?
I'll take that.
Stop.
2 months, man. 2 months, buddy.
Okay, all right. Enough of that.
Filters I have. No, I don't know.
That's cool, man. Well, they are very much sister bands, and obviously automatic invite to you and your brother for Mastodon podcast. Capture their Mastodon stories. You're invited. I spoke with Richie. I think I sent you that one, and Skinner as well. So hopefully Bran, Bill, when new album, I'm thinking Bill gave the time frame of September. So jump on a show with them, man, and we can host a cool kindred exchange. Maybe you direct the next Mastodon fucking music video, man.
Yeah, dude, it'd be amazing. Amazing.
Awesome. Well, let's dive into the chant, man. Just I wanted to sort of, my inlet into this is that, like, Gojira, as my fiance would say, is a heart-led band. They lead from their heart, and their causes, absolutely. It's at the heart of them. And you sense, and I'm so glad you kind of segued me into it, that kindred resonance with what Gojira do and who they are is that meeting of creative essences and kindred spirits. Tell us, that would be really rad to kind of hear how that kind of happened.
Yeah, it's funny because I'll give you like a little bit of my background, but I grew up military, not military, but government family on the East Coast of the US, and in Virginia Beach. In Virginia Beach, like my high school, like we were all surfers and skateboarders and making surf and skate films, but like my best friend went on to start the band Avalanches, great punk band. He went into that world, and then my friend's brother Nate Newton went on to be in Converge. Still, I think he still tours with Converge. So we kind of had this little like coastal beach town, but like we always were very in touch with like the metal and the punk scene, and like it was always just something very much of everything we did. We used that music in skate videos, surf videos. We went to metal shows. We went to straight edge shows. And all that. My dad, I grew up listening to Minor Threat and Fugazi. My dad would like play the records at the house and stuff. So very embedded. Bad Brains is still like a favorite band of all time. So we're very like in that kind of world. And then like in college, my college roommate was in a band called Spitfire. They're on Solid State, and they toured with Zayo and 18 Visions. So I was very into the math rock, cave-in kind of world at that time.
Dude, this is all speaking to me. I dig it.
Right on, dude. Yeah, it's just like it was like such a great time in music. And then my career, I kind of like was making, like I said, surf films and things like that, but wanted to work with nonprofits. So it was kind of this weird mix of like, I'd go work with a nonprofit organization and I'd be listening in my ear to, the new, like anything, like really, I was really into like Avail and politically driven punk, I still listen after the last year we've had in the US. I still dig in very deeply to my, early DC punk rock roots and things like that that I grew up
Catharsis, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And we're fighting for, what is right over here through that. But with that being said, so I kind of like, I actually went on tour with my buddy in Spitfire for a while. And then they all went on to, like, the drummer went on to Norma Jean, like went on to play Norma Jean. So it was all this whole world where I kind of would like intersect it. And then I live in North County, San Diego now. And like we got my buddy Joey, who actually, when I got the script for the chant, Joey Bradford, he's plays guitar for The Used. So I like called him. I was like, hey man, I've heard of these guys. I don't know them that well, but this script is really good. And he was like, oh no, man, they are the most technical. Like they are one of the most, if not the most. And then it's funny because I kind of reached out, like my friend Jeremy Griffith, he's a producer who's in a band called Moments in Grace for a while. Same thing with him. I went to him. I was like, hey man, I just wanted to feel him out because I knew of Gojira, but I wasn't like really on board. And all my musician friends were like, oh no, these guys are the pinnacle of technical metal. Like they are. And I was like, oh rad. Like, and then I'm reading the script going, oh wow, this is like I feel like this is the chance. So to back up a little bit,
that's cool.
I've always been in and out of metal. I've worked with As I Lay Dying. I shot with Terror. I've shot with a bunch of these bands just kind of like in passing. And I'm always like this kind of like nerdy white guy who really just loves metal. I've shot a lot of stuff with like the band Switchfoot. They're local here too. Those guys are all kind of like metalheads. I've actually worked a little bit in the Christian music world as well. And it's funny because like, they're like, a lot of the Christian worship bands are super into metal.
Yeah, for sure, man. It's cathartic, man. Yeah,
dude, it's the most tech. I mean, it's like for me, like I'm not a musician, but like I can respect the technicality of it. Like metal is the most technical music, and I've had so much.
I just went on a bit of a Meshuggah bend and saw them recording Coloss, like constructing the Coloss. We've got Meshuggah podcast coming up, speaking with Luminokaya, the artist of that one. Yeah, no, dude, go for it. And yeah, it's so funny though. It's you were embedded. You had that Venn diagram into the spheres, but then Gojira was this elusive thing. And I think of the cosmos sometimes like, oh yeah, we're holding it back because something big is coming, and it's okay, man, well, you know, go for it.
No, and that's exactly kind of what I think it was, because it was like, it's funny, when I first heard the chant, I was like, well, this isn't, you know, this isn't like made for one thing. Born for one thing is like it's the breakdowns and Mario. I mean, and that's kind of what I think I was expecting. I heard the chant, I was like, oh, this is different. But then I read the lyrics and I read the story and the idea that Joe had, and I was like, oh, okay. Like, this is something that he really wants people to sit down. Yeah. He's got the ear of people around the world that like metal and they know what they're on board with, but this is something that's going to catch them off guard.
That's it.
And because, for good reason, this is something that needs to be explained to them and told to them and things like that. So that's kind of what happened. Was my agent called. He was like, hey, I have the script for you. I'd like you to check it out. And I've been wanting to do like a narrative project overseas. I work in third world countries a lot for nonprofits and different surf projects and stuff. And I really want to do something with a story, with actors or people that we would
from the
actors.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so that's kind of what this came across, and it was almost like a godsend for me. I was like, this is the kind of story that I've been kind of looking for.
Yeah.
So
it is trippy how you would explain just literally the lineage of, okay, so the earliest sense of, you know, that kinship with that music, that heavier music. As you go into, obviously you have that eclectic side to you that develops, almost like preparing you for it. And I just think this is, first of all, I'll just say this, I haven't even 20 minutes into talking or something. It's the most fucking moving. I was going to say one of, but no, the most fucking moving video, because, man, like, again, we're white schmucks. Like, we're so distant from that experience, but what we can do is signal boost it and immerse into it and reach as much as we can that empathetic place of connection with it. Because to be displaced, to be packed in a box, to be all of that, man. And you captured that with such earnestness and humanity, man. And that it's, again, people put themselves on the screen, and that's you. You're a deeply human person. So it just really, really communicated Joe's tunes and then the band's tunes for sure. Really like balanced editing too. Do you have a hand in the editing as well?
Yeah. I did. The editor actually had been to the area. I worked with an editor, my friend Zach Winnick. He's a legendary human. And then he actually, he works for a production studio called Cosmos Street. And the executive producer is a huge Gojira fan. So she basically was like, bring it in. Let's bring it in. I was like, it was like, like I said, it was like this divine thing that kept bouncing around. And then when the color, Apache did the color, same thing. Huge metal fans, like honored to be a part of it. And it's, like I said, it was just one of those things where it just kind of, everything kind of just came in, it worked together. I mean, we'll talk about the production, but the shoot itself was
Go for it, man.
But anyway, so I just liked the script and I was like, this is really interesting. And of course, like when you have a visionary guy like Joe's going to think like, you know, as high as possible. A lot of times my job is to like figure out how to execute. Exactly. Still communicate the honesty of the concept, but within the real world. And I think he would have anticipated that anyway. So. Totally. And he was very much on board with that. And it's like one of those things of like music videos obviously are it's kind of a lost art now. You basically pay for bands' music videos a lot of times. That wasn't the case with this one. We actually had a little bit of budget to make something to get us there, but a lot of the crew worked for free just because they love the story, they love the idea, or they're fans of the band. Our gaffer worked for free in San Diego when we did the band footage. We shot that when they were on tour with Deftones. On the ground, Malin, my producer, he worked for free. Dustin
Holy
Miller.
Fuck, to all these people that work for free, I just had an empathetic moment. Like, fucking thank you, man. Like, I've done stuff for free. I do all the podcast stuff for free, all of it non-profit. And just the idea of like just putting that much, it is fueled by the worthwhileness of the idea, inherently, the people themselves, and just so much thank you. Like, whoever's watching, who may be watching with Russell on the show, like, fucking thank you on behalf of the whole community. Upholding the art of the vinyl, upholding the art of the music video for fucking ever, and you're an agent of that, man. So thank you.
And with that being said, too, I mean, when I say free, like obviously we're able to fly people there. Like the label was generous enough to get everyone there, and like
you have to walk there. Sorry.
Yeah. There was no like, it was just, but it really was a thing. I think it was a mix between like, we're passionate filmmakers. One, like Malin was like, let's do it, let's find it. He found the fixers and talent and everything. So I think it really was like a matter. And then Chris Brown from the label, just a lovely human. I mean, we all showed up in India. Joe was there, all hands on deck. Joe was doing makeup. Chris was like helping lift the box into the truck. I'm working with a translator through another translator. I mean, and we worked out of Calcutta too, which is like kind of a whole different crew than parts of Delhi or Mumbai. So yeah, it was a wild experience. But I will say, like, you know, it's funny because not only was it a great experience, but I look back now at what we've been through for the past, I mean, nearly a year and a half now.
Yeah.
That you're like, I feel like we're getting prepared for something. And I think that like, that's what we were there, and it was hard, but for some reason we had to keep moving on. And I think that's kind of like,
well, like again, I believe in the power of the cautionary tale of the, you know, the cutting. Like the video obviously opens with the message, with the context, which is, you know, and I would say on the threshold of ashamed to admit that I was not aware of the invasion of Tibet back then. And the thing is, totalitarian, you know, we just had Chernobyl, which actually it's getting this big revival that people are diving into it because they're like, what is the cost of lies? You know, every lie incurs a debt to the truth. And this thing of also, we had recently April 24th, which is, you know, Armenian, we do the System of a Down podcast too, Armenian Genocide Recognition Day. The beauty of the digital medium is just to say, nah, fuck it, you can't 1984 this out of existence. As you said, it's a cultural genocide, and thank you, like, yeah, and that's so important. And I'm so glad that you stuck with it, because there's a sense of, hey, like, no, we're not standing for tyranny either in our homeland or any other homeland, you know. So fucking powerful, man. Life changes through art, man, and this is a huge, like, exemplary of that, like, life changing.
Like I said, I'm a product of 90s hip hop, 90s, you know, metal, like punk rock, and it's very much still reigns true today. And that's the kind of thing like I said, I knew of Gojira, but I didn't know that they were environmentalists, that they were humanitarians. And when this came out, I was like, oh my goodness. And I think to what you say about the Tibetan diaspora, like, it was huge. Like the Beastie Boys were behind it in the late 80s, early 90s. You know, there was a Free Tibet. I mean, it was a very big thing. But the reality of it is, it's still very much going on. Actually, during the pandemic, there's been continued clashes between the Chinese and the Indian government. I would be constantly talking with the guys over the last year, being like, this is still happening, guys. We might not have been able to shoot it now, between the pandemic, between some of the military kind of mobilizations happening in that area. So it was very much like, I was talking with Chris from the label, and like, we were like, when it released, he's like, dude, you know, we wouldn't have been able to shoot this, like, that was the time we had to shoot this, because it really,
again, another sign of that cosmos alignment, man, for sure.
Yeah, so I mean, it was very much like the timing. It killed us to hold on to it for so long. I know it killed a lot of the fans to wait as long as it was. I think it killed Joe and the boys too. But I mean, in the end, sometimes like good things come to those who wait, you know. So.
Yeah, and then also that opportunity to refine. And I think there was a bit of a sense of, and I'm a symbolist, so I dive into just the meaning of certain things, and I always jump back and have that disclaimer of, like, obviously there's chaos, it's a chaotic universe in some ways, but I do believe that there's manifesting in the universe. I believe that there's bottlenecking, and I think round about when COVID was hitting, there was a bottlenecking of us moving way too quickly, scrolling way too quick, everything too quickly, and really forgetting what's meaningful. And also there was a bit of conveyor belt art making happening, where it's just fucking shallow stuff, and now it's like you actually are locked in your room, and it's like, sit with it, reintroduce that sense of refinement. And I'm sure, man, I don't doubt that the extra time you would have been like, well, you know, we're not really releasing this for another however many, let me see if I can. Did you do a bit of COVID tweaking? Oh yeah, we changed some of the dates to make, obviously we changed the last date from 2020 to 2021. Joe's like, we can have 2020 on this video. Yeah, man. Which was like, yeah, I mean, so there's those kinds of things. I mean, to be honest with you, to keep, as a person who deals with, I think, along with a lot of people, any kind of like mental health issues, especially during the last year, it was very, like, it was therapeutic to kind of sit with these projects and review them. And I shared it with people that I respect in the film community and the music community.
privately ahead of it. And even like I stayed in touch with Joe. It was nice. Like just little texts. They had to escape to France, I think, and which thank God they were able to shoot the Born for One Thing video, because that video is so good. And
when I saw that, I'll just say this because I want you, obviously I'm manifesting everything from you so hardcore. Even before I met you, obviously I was like, this guy, he has to just boom, explode. I want this. And that's why signal boosting you. After meeting with you, I literally feel like it's like a cosmos brother of some kind. Fuck yeah. And so come to Australia, we'll take care of you. You're not paying for a damn thing. We love you. Yeah, for sure. The missus and I. And so, but when I saw Born for One Thing, it had a weirdly like kind of a 90s tinge. I guess museums as a kid in the 90s is like, there wasn't the internet. You went to, I had the, you remember the eyewitness videos by any chance?
No, I don't know.
Oh, okay. It's fantastic. So you know, those books, the eyewitness books. They would examine like a certain animal or a certain animalia, whatever, like area of the flora, fauna, or whatever, or the environment, and geology and stuff. And so then they made these VHSs back in the day, and the series, it was narrated by Martin Sheen over in America. And then and they back when, for some reason, like with Mad Max with us, like America, like they did a rejob of Mad Max with American accent. We don't do that anymore. I love that. But you'd love it because it is basically, it's very earnest. It's set in a museum, just like Born for One Thing. And it's this thing of, you move through these different rooms and like things like shapes change. So I was like, what the fuck? And I'm sure that they know about it. So I'm going to send you some links. You'll really like it.
I'd love that, man. Yeah, for sure.
For sure. Absolutely. But now I have like probably infinite questions, but let's contain it because I value your time. So there's a shot with the young boy crossing the river that I used for your promo shot. Overcoming, threshold. Again, your fucking movie is a feast for symbolism, man. Like, people don't realize the language of cinema. Oh, place something on the left so that it evokes the past, and then place something to the right to evoke the future. All of that was just a fucking feast, man. So I just want to say, so all of the shots were done with such intent. The minutia shots, the woman preparing the child and everything. If you wanted to go into any particular stories from the shoots, any particular location stuff, you just go for it. What jumps to mind first, and then we can jump around?
I'd say the Buddhist temple was something pretty. I feel like Buddhism, in the U.S. especially, has become a bit of a cliche. Like we see the flags. It's kind of thrown around, but to be amongst these young men who've taken a vow and going through their religious daily practices, and how open and accommodating they were to us, it was like, that was pretty incredible. It was like, it was like towards the end of the day, we actually scouted the monastery. It was pretty like cloudy out. This happens in the mountains of India. I've worked there before, and you're like, oh, okay, it's cloudy. Come back on the day, and it's like sunny, and you can see the Himalayas in the distance, and the sun is like blasting through the window. And these kids, that's the thing about these two, like the monks, they're like 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old kids a lot of times, who are just like psyched to they're really nice. They obviously have to stay within their parameters and that, but just excited to practice a little bit of English, work with us. They helped with the wardrobe, our main talent there. They helped make sure he looked good to go. It was really cool. I think it was a beautiful, and I think for me, that was the most powerful, just to it was that moment in life where you're like, I don't know that anyone's ever been able to do this. A lot of people from Calcutta would vacation in this area, but I think very few Westerners. So I think that moment was pretty special. And I think
it's so humanity affirming is the word.
It is.
And the cosmos was on your side, like putting everything together with I love it.
I've been gathering all my photos with the monks, and going to post that in the next few days. And but yeah, that was a really, really, really cool time. It was all a whirlwind. It was all wild, but I do know that was, I think for anything, even though we were working in those moments, I think it was almost kind of therapeutic amongst the craziness, because we just had to exist, move around too much, couldn't check our phones. It was just like relax. So I think that's definitely kind of the most memorable for me.
That's beautiful.
And a lot of it too is just the pre-production, just showing up, not really knowing what to expect. We had to work through a lot of hiccups along the way.
A lot of improvisation, would you say, or was much of it, as they call Spielbergified, which is everything planned out, storyboarded, but it was all go for it.
It was all over the place. We definitely had. I mean, and that's why, yeah. I mean, like the main talent, our gentleman who played our middle talent, like showed up with the coolest like hip haircut. Yeah. And we were like, hey buddy, could you shave your head? And you saw like the blood rush out of his face, and he did. He was like, you know what? Yeah. And I think a lot of that was thanks to like, the social media world. Like these kids have phones and they see things. So I think he kind of understood what he was a part of, and he's seen the video now and he's super excited about it. Amit, our fixer over there, he's kind of shared it with everyone. So I think that like it was kind of
whatever his name, and whoever, like maybe just send me. I just want to tag everyone. Signal boost everyone.
Everyone for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
But it was very much like it was a taxing, crazy, tiring shoot at 8,000 feet, and we were pretty winded all the time. But at the same time, it was yeah, I mean, we just could not have done it without the way people came together. Our mother character, we were shooting that scene over and over again, and I was like just trying to get it just right. I could see her getting a little frustrated. And finally, she talks to her translator, and she goes, I was like, "What's going on?" He's like, "She has to leave for work," and I'm like, "Oh, that's fine." You're fine. She had to like leave set to go work, and I'm like, "That's totally fine."
Wow, that is very earnest. That's wonderful. Okay, now I'm gonna get unfiltered and very fucking ochre and Australian. That's fine. This music video is not only like the fucking art of the music video isn't dead, but fuck you are going on location. Fuck you, to this trend of everything becoming digital. It was like, and I'm assuming, so what did you shoot on in terms of tech?
Yeah, we kind of used, I'm fortunate enough to have a small production company. So we just used like a helium red camera, which is like just an 8K cinema camera. It was what's available. We packed it very smallly. Dustin Miller's a great cinematographer, DP. We kind of use that. We use super speed lenses. The lenses are, I think, probably made in the early 60s. So they're uncoated. That's why you see a lot of the refractions and flares.
And that's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah. So we use super speeds there. It was very run and gun. Dustin pulled his own focus. We just wanted to make everything as kind of slim as possible. We had a great local crew that kind of helped us out along the way. And then we did a few things. Dustin being the guy that he is, we obviously were shooting a raw format, but he would do things. We'd like tweak the color balance a little bit. When it was bright sun out time, we might shoot like a 4300K, which makes it a little more blue and things like that. So Dustin was really kind of shooting the look that we were going for in camera. We ended up grading it all. And also we had to keep in mind that we're portraying, 40 years, 50 years, like of a story.
And it felt authentic. And I'd have noticed there's I would call it, it's like the costumey, it's like all the everything authentic. And did you source like original uniforms and stuff and clothing?
Yeah, the local guys were really big on that. They helped us out. We obviously we had to like kind of like, we didn't want to be too on the nose. It was almost the kind of thing where the original idea was we weren't even going to really tell people that it was meant to be Tibet. It was almost like this, like you just know. If you're going to watch this film, you're going to be like, okay, I get an idea what this is. That's been done a lot with Uganda in film. I always watch that with they'll never say it's Uganda, but it is in Joseph Kony and things, So anyway, we did that. Dustin, the fun thing in the when we shot with the flashback scene and then when we shot in the monastery, Dustin took Vaseline and put it on a filter. So that's why you have all that like blue, all that like flary, that's all done in camera. So I think that was a big thing. We didn't want to mess with stuff.
Man, again, old school without just the, I mean, again,
it can be. We would have shot film, but we couldn't quite. It wasn't a Ford. I think it was more of my producer might have had a heart attack had we shot film over there.
No, for sure. No, and I think the red, I think Peter Jackson back in the day, he was talking about it with The Hobbit and stuff. And man, I'm gunning for one. I know I'm gonna spring it though. At one point, it's just too fucking. Again, capturing the quintessence. Like lighting is obviously a factor. And
this thing, if you're in the right place, like I mean, it really does come down to like story, performance.
Yeah.
It's nice to have a nice camera that can kind of afford you the latitude. But man, just get your hands on whatever you can if the story's right.
For sure. I think maybe that's a good natural organic segue into, if we do have people watching, which I'm sure we have, with that sense of, okay, either in, film school or planning on entering the film world, just with that, having your own production company. I think that'd be nice if you wanted to just riff out a bit of, how you got there, and what do you reckon for these people kind of on that path? Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still the guy. I mean, this year's been tough on, I think, most filmmakers. I'm still the guy hustling right now. Like, I do commercials to pay the bills, and I love. My big thing is that I never set out to do this; it just kind of happened. And I think Dustin is very similar to Dustin Miller. We kind of just we kind of were that first generation of DIY filmmakers where we shoot, edit, produce, and we still sometimes do that. I mean, this was very much that kind of project. I went from this, Malin and I came out of a Visa commercial right before this. We were in Korea, or we were in Thailand shooting Visa, went home for Thanksgiving, hopped on a plane to India. So it's like that paid for that. And then, it's like, that's kind of the world that we work in. And to be honest with you, I love this craft and this process so much. It's to the point where it's become, it's helped me through the pandemic, creating,
I can see, it's you really you put yourself on screen, but there's a sense of that symbiotic relationship. It's like, this isn't just a gig, it isn't just even like something to fill time. It is this I love that. I think of that with the network and what I do, and at Creative Outlets is like, I just wouldn't be me if I didn't do this. So I
mean, pushing buttons and making movies is what kind of has got me through, I feel like, the last year, and it's like, and the knowing we get to share work like this at the end of it. So, but I just kind of, like I said, we started in skateboarding and surfing. I still do some surfing stuff here and there.
That's great. Do you skate and surf as well?
I don't skate much anymore. My brother's the skater and I'm the surfer. But I have a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old, and they're both into skateboarding and starting to surf. So it's a lot of fun. We live close to the beach, so that's what we spend most of our time doing. But I do think that experience with Dustin and I, that experience of making surf films, those were our music videos. Like I'm like a bit, I mean, I'm kind of old for still doing music videos, but at the same time, like it's because the music video years for a lot of directors, for us, were skateboard films and surf films. And like, you'll see, like I did a music video yesterday and I was like, here's some surf stuff I did, because basically you're cutting emotion and action to a great track that you love. And that's kind of what we were doing. And that's kind of the thing that got me in front of these guys. I mean, it was the travel for other organizations and surf films and stuff like that. First time I went to India was a surf film with a surfer from Australia. So it's
no way.
So it's great. So it just works out, and we know how to go with the flow and work in crazy conditions and stuff.
I always find, and maybe I want to speak to you about this, because again, you see, I observe and I sense this kinship and that sense of the water and living close to it. And I've always found, I want to get your riff on this, is everyone, I think pretty much without any exception, people who live close to the water resonate with the water, connect with this. They are the most fucking easygoing. It's not some tropey fucking stereotype thing. It's like, give me more people who are at one with that vibe, because I'm so, if you get too inland and if you get too wrapped up in the cities, and again, that's Gojira's thing as well, is being one with the flow of things, and not in any hippy dippy way, just like, I just find that you're getting more out of life. And isn't it interesting that we're made of 70% water, right? You clearly are fucking aging backwards. So so there's such a great sense of like, hey, water's the hint, man. Like 70%, maybe hang out with water a fucking bunch. Maybe that'll make you a better person. So
you're living in you're like, your country's living proof of that. I mean, like, guys in their 70s and 80s, and if they can withstand the sun, you're doing pretty good. But I mean, I think that's the thing with that's what kind of, it's that generation of guys. Like, I do think, like, without it being hippy dippy or whatever, like I said, I'm the kid who didn't like reggae or like hippie music growing up. I was punk rock, black hair, I don't want sun in my hair, stuff like that. But it was still like very much a therapeutic. I've been very fortunate to always live near the ocean. Swimming and diving and surfing and fishing have always been very much a part of my life, and even generations behind me. And I do think that that's the one thing that I can kind of bring to the work. And I think Joe and I connected because of their flying whales and connections there, their passion for the
Sea Shepherd. I really want to hear of Blood and Salt at one point, whenever they decide to like do that whole single thing. But go for it. So you connected over that, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the Sea Shepherd was always interesting to me, and I think that I mean, it's just something that I'll be surfing here in Southern California after a storm, and I'll fill my wetsuit up with plastic, because it's just it's just something we're all fighting for, this ocean, to keep it clean, and we want to kind of hand that off to the next generation, because it really is like you said, a cathartic thing that like helps me get through the day, you know.
It's I say, and it'll be at the start of this one, if you saw with Glauber and Eva, that second episode, they did pretty good for people who had never done podcasts before. I plucked them from the community, like, tell me about Fortitude, you know. And they loved the chant, obviously, and they gave you lots of props there.
Cool.
And what I said to them is, look, because he's doing environmental engineering and stuff, and I say at the beginning, it'll be at the beginning and end of this, every Gojira podcast episode, make regular donation a muscle memory for, especially if you're in a privileged position, just it like that, you're not thinking about it, chuck it, share a meal, just part of your life. And then same when I'm going around, I'm big walk, I love, mostly because I'm an introvert. I just like Canberra, when you come here, because you will, like a new family, kids, wife, friends, we're paying for everything, we
right in the middle.
yeah, for sure. And yeah, there's lots of bike paths here, so I'm just walking everywhere, and I see like bits and bobs, Mars wrapper here, Milky Way wrapper. I just chuck it in the pocket and fucking throw it later. Little things, turn it into muscle memory, like old mate here. And I think you made a lot of surfers smile when you said, I come home with my surf suit full of plastic.
Man. Yeah, I mean, it's like I agree with you too. Like, there's a level of like, I think that in our, especially with social media and just such a pulse on everything happening all the time, we can kind of feel that we're too small. That we're too small. It's the problems are too big, or even like, oh, you can find yourself being cynical of organizations trying to do. I know Australia is very understanding of the tall poppy syndrome. You know, it's like it's hard when you stand up and do something. And that's the thing with even with Gojira. That's the thing I've noticed just in reading through some of the comments on YouTube. Man, like, people are happy, like they're standing behind it. Like,
man,
there's even a few people that have been like, this song's not my favorite, but I like the message, you know.
I want to say this, and guess what, they wouldn't have been, and it hurts me to admit this, but sometimes you need to have been burnt to have learned. Like, there's a thing with COVID that coming out of it, it's like Scrooge coming out of those 3 cautionary dreams of past, present, future. We come out, we burst the fucking window open and say, hey, holy shit, you who I previously would have never appreciated, fuck yeah. And that's, the love's going to come to you for that, for sticking with it through. I get this, I get a sense of that renewal of or the like appreciation and the shedding of that jadedness, you know.
Totally. And that's the thing, it's just shut down that part of your mind and help someone. And if it, like, whatever, if it, at least that's something that you can live with yourself with, you know. So
I'm digging heavy on that, man. Dude, oh my god, this is, and look, I love my previous guests, I fucking love them, but you're the most fucking kindred person I've spoken with. Holy shit.
Oh, sick. Awesome, thank you.
For sure, man. And you know, I spoke with CD Clark, he's another kindred cosmos brother, whatever, from Mars Volta and stuff. And something I'm
at the drive-in, dude.
You say again, mate?
Don't get me started on At the Drive-In. That's like,
oh, bro. Okay, well, we got At the Drive-In podcast. That's it. You and me. Let's do it.
Man, I did a road trip this summer, and driving through El Paso, just one-arm scissor as loud as possible. I mean,
you have to, man.
Beto El Paso too. Over here, man. That's just like, as I said, Beto to me is like, Beto O'Rourke is like the picture of like, you know, you go from being in Cedric's band, you know, straight into like working your way into politics. Like, it's phenomenal in a state that needs something like that too right now. So I think that I love it. I love it.
Oh, that's great. And I do cross-pollinating. Sometimes I do the cross-posting. So this will go on Mars Volta as well, just to kind of pull people in. Instagram, I actually jumped if you go through my fucking albertkessler.com/journal in December, I had fucked off every social media ever. I fucking deleted everything, right? Because I had this sense of really wanted to, but then I saw one thing again. I can really fucking have serious problems with Facebook. Well, the one thing there is when Trump was, I'm going to say his name, Trump circling the drain. And they digitally, at least, they pushed him in by banning him from Facebook, and then Twitter banned him, and then others. So I was like, I have fucking issues with you, man. Like Big Brother 1984 issues. But that was cool, and it sort of broke the inlet a bit. And now Instagram, I don't do any like personal. It's just signal boosting other people. Facebook, it's I'm on, but it's bereft. Like, I just this thing, I've found this wonderful way of like connecting and cross sharing. And so, man, At the Drive-In podcast is happening. Guess the fuck what? Because we're gonna find out. And same with the Gojira podcast, and you can jump on for any of these, man, including Mastodon, your brother as well. Find all the tiny little stories along the way that are just fucking. They're each fucking band is a gift, is like a gift waiting to be unwrapped of these little minutia stories of like, oh yeah, on this tour, oh yeah, at that gig, you know. So
absolutely, I love it. I love it. It's great.
Well, I wanted to, okay, so because I'm just obviously I feel like talking about upcoming projects. Do you have anything that you wanted to kind of like that you're in the middle of that you can disclose, like NDAs and stuff or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ideas floating around. It's funny you talked about the 70% water thing. I'm actually working on a bit of a documentary idea about that, actually, with humans and their connections to the ocean. And not in like a cheesy way, but in like a true, like scientific.
James Cameron, same thing. You know, he's like, actually, this is nothing. And he said, even in the fucking, we do Avatar, we spoke with one of the designers of that one, a great signal boosting thing for ecological causes. Right yeah, man, like he says, like, this is, and there's even a line in the movies like, this isn't some pagan stuff. It's fucking real. You know, this is so, and now obviously, because I'm a big fan of water, because of everything it is. And some people have said this one resembles like you know, sea, after, you know, there's been disruption, the sea surf creates that one is based on that too.
I heard a lot of that in my life.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, because you know about it, of course. And I want to, is it at a stage where I can chuck something in the description to support your endeavor, like a donation thing, or
not quite? It's still pretty early.
Okay.
With production right now, everyone's still trying to, like, I think there's a lot of production going on, which is great. I think we're still trying to figure out how things are going to move forward, because I think there's still a lot of skepticism, especially with international work, and that's like a lot of the work I do. But yeah, man, I mean, for the most part, there's a lot of ideas. There's a lot of script writing that I've been doing. Nothing too soon. At the moment, I'm just trying to kind of come out of this year and enjoy my family and enjoy the work I do and do some work on myself as well. And I think that that's all going to play into the work. It's funny because like work is picking up again, and creativity is coming around, and we're starting to be able to cross borders again, and I think that that's the momentum that I want to ride off of right now and just keep going. But yes, and I go again too, like I could get off this call right now and, you know, there could be something in the mailbox like, hey,
in the mailbox. I noticed you picked up, you had a few calls coming, so I feel bad that I like.
No, it's good. No, it's fine. It's great.
Okay, cool. Because it's like, well, Marvel Studios is cool. I don't know.
To be speaking with somebody in Australia is therapeutic right now. Just I've missed the country so much during the last year. It's crazy.
Bro, come over, man. What are you doing? Come I'll put on my more Australia. Get the fuck over here, mate. Fucking, what are you fucking doing? Go watch fucking Mortal Kombat. Hang out with Kano.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, that's cool, man. No, please do. And I mean, obviously Canberra, we're a little bit more inland and stuff. We got a massive, even if it's a manufactured lake or whatever. But what I loved, you know, the story of Canberra with like between Sydney and Melbourne.
It's back between Melbourne and Sydney, right?
Yeah, between Melbourne and Sydney, they each wanted to be the capital, and then Australia was like the mothers. Like, okay, none of you get the capital. You're fucking, and so then they just made one right smack in the middle. So that's cool.
You know, my dad worked for the government in Australia, and he actually really enjoid Canberra. He was there quite a bit for work.
Oh, cool. That's nice. I do government stuff too over here, you know. It's as much as I can say, but yeah, cool. No,
it's great. Yeah, he has a good time.
I might even run into him in like a corridor or something. Who knows?
Yeah. That's awesome.
But for sure. So, okay. So you've been obviously a few times to Australia. You know what makes me sad? And I want to just call out any of the, maybe the, you know, the Who, for example. The Who from Mongolia. Oh, have you heard them, man?
No, I haven't.
What the fuck? My brother. They are so kindred with Gojira. They are signal boosting Mongolian heritage, Mongolian throat singing, man, and metal. Bruh.
That's amazing. I love that. Yeah.
You'll love it. And they've done some. Yeah, and it's so funny. Like, they're just hanging out, doing their thing. Fucking Lucasfilm calls them and says, hey, we need some really just like vibed out, you know, something that evokes another world, something, you know. And they are on the soundtrack to Jedi Fallen Order. This fucking cultural signal boosting. They play on the old Mongolian instruments. Oh, yeah. That's incredible. You'll love it. Okay, cool, man. I like I said, I could probably fucking email you about them, but maybe a couple extra questions about the channel, just for people who are like, you know, out there listeners being like, so we talked a bit of your travel. Any travel problems, like you know, like because it's Tibet and stuff. How is
Yeah.
it over there? Just like finger on the pulse,
Yeah.
you know, just the vibe of it there.
Totally. Well, I mean, obviously it was pre-pandemic, so everything's changed. But I will say, like many trips, I love India. I love the chaos that is India. I
Yeah, me
love
too.
the everything about it. I mean, I've been sick on a train in India, didn't mind. Just like part of the deal. I'm just like I'm in this, you know.
Nice. Well, we're before my fiance is from Bangladesh,
Oh,
and
right on. Yeah. Yeah, I've been
Bangladesh.
to Bangladesh. Yeah.
So when you come over, we'll talk India stories and
Oh,
stuff.
sure.
But yeah, go for it,
Yeah.
man.
No, yeah, and that's what I say too, like Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, all those places I've traveled to, and I think that it's just you're so far away from the comforts of the Western world that it's just I love kind of being out in the open in that respect, and I think that's what we kind of brought to the film. I mean, we obviously India's because it was a British country for so long, you still have a lot of that bureaucracy left over. So if you ask one person for something, they have to ask 6 other people. So it's kind of that balance of like just doing it or like
Don't get
going
me
about
started.
the right ways. Yeah. So I mean, obviously we did the right. We went shooting in India is very. You can get arrested if you're not under the right.
That's kind of what I was getting at. Any troubles with that, man, or did you
No,
pivot
I mean,
around?
there's always like getting gear in the country, and there's always the hiccups along the way. But I think that you can kind of just tell people what you're doing a lot of times, or they don't really mind. A lot of time being a Westerner kind of helps in that respect. The travel to there was, I mean, it was wild. The roads were crazy getting there. The area, you'll see we wore masks a lot in the behind the scenes. The town we were in, we don't know what was going on, but the area that we shot in, they were like updating the roads, I believe. So we're actually shooting in like tar smoke a lot of the time. So there was just a really, yes, masks. And we just didn't know. There's definitely some development going in that area. No, I don't know what had happened. So I think that was kind of tricky at times. And then of course too, it's just like working with the language barriers, tricky. We had to run back and forth to Calcutta a couple of times for things like batteries and stuff that weren't showing up at the right time. And just, paying people in cash, and Malin's great for that. And it's just kind of like what we did. We did everything above board. It was very like legit. We went through all the right channels and everything that we had to do. I think, to be honest with you, the hardest part about India for me is like leaving India, like a lot of times. And that's what even us, like the drive back, the fly back, the overnight, like that, like I almost look at some of the footage and go, man, we didn't know the journey that we had ahead of us on the way home. I remember we were in a traffic jam at one point, and I think the truck was an inch from a cliff face, and we just, Dustin and I just got out of the truck and just walked around the corner. It's just like, it's that kind of stuff, It's like,
oh man,
like, I mean, India, you're walking down the street and it's like, oh, there's a guy with a sword through his face, but that's just part of the deal. It's like stuff that happens like that.
Well, that's going to be an excerpt for the Instagram, because I post the clips. Yeah, sword through his face. All right.
No, and I feel like that too has been what's been like taken away from, obviously this past year. So I'm excited to kind of keep traveling and experiencing stuff like that. And I think too, the timing of India too. I mean, you see like us Americans love to complain about stuff, and now you see what India is going through, and it's quite a crisis right now with COVID.
It's a disparity. Yeah,
it is. Yeah, and I think that we have a great healthcare system here on some level, and we complain about certain things, but India is really going through a lot right now. And I think that was part of the timing with releasing the video as well. So
I consider Chant, the Chant, Gojira, yourself to be, if you were to envision, just get into some hypothetical fucking, illustraverse with me. I don't know, words to describe things. If you're thinking of like cells, for example, and how like a scar heals, right? The thing's coming over and then it makes the skin harder and better and stronger, right? Obviously that's how running works and stuff. I consider you and this and the Chant and Gojira. But I just want to say this, I mean, it is even more unfiltered, like you had Amazonia and stuff, but it's like, boom, there, the band, and it's like, like a wound healing. And like you are just like a nice freaking colossal white blood cell going over, just part of this, like the lights kind of all coming together to create this, coming out of this fucking 4-5 years period of, dejection, all these downtrodden, like really downhearted and depression. It was you mentioned it before, and also I want to get your vibe on that. That's important. I think I manage it too. I guess that's right. The people out there with like depression and stuff,
Yeah.
It's a roommate, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
you communicate with your roommate, bruh. Like, you
Yeah, of course.
don't stigmatize, you don't judge and stuff. And I,
Yeah.
maybe without, obviously, I want to be respectful, but you mentioned
Yeah.
that you had a bit of that, and that's
Yeah.
it's heartening because we all do, and we have to admit it. What's your
Yeah.
vibe with that, and like managing that with like family and creativity? Is that self
Absolutely. Yeah.
dialogue? Go for it.
Yeah. I mean, I think like obviously 2020 was a magnifying glass for me. That's what I say. It was like everything that needed to come out or everything I was dealing with needed to be kind of dealt with. And that's what this year's been for me, a lot of that. And I think like I found that being creative, travel was it was an escape for me, but it was also like a
Come back to
soothing way
yourself.
that yeah, exactly. It just put everything in perspective. And I think that was a hard thing about this year because I like kind of we were home
Mm.
and all of a sudden things like everything in front of us was very it just was that's all it was just what we were seeing in front of us, and all of a sudden like to get to that place you had to look at it on a screen, or go to that place you had to look on a screen. And I think that that's what I really dealt with a lot this year is like I would be sad about not being able to travel, but even more than that, I'd be sad about not being able to tell the stories that I feel like I wanted to tell. I did a short with my friend Gigi. It's on my Vimeo page about the civil rights movement in St. Augustine and how the beaches in Florida in the 60s, the beaches were a big point of contention. And Gigi is a Black American surfer, and she's surfing now on these beaches that you couldn't surf. So that was, for me, that was literally just like a way to be like, oh, I need to like, it was therapy for me, you know, to like tell a story about something I'm very passionate about. And I think that's what happened was this past year was like, I grew up in the American South where like racism was a very common thing amongst friends, family, culture, very much so. And my brother and I think at a very young age, made the decision that even the people that we might love and respect say things, we can disagree with those things. We can disagree with
civil, have that basis of common ground.
And even like, you know, you see with the Tibetan people and the chant, like that idea, like I've always felt a real duty to those who have less than us and those people who don't have a voice. And in the last year of the US, I felt very strongly that our job as Americans is to give the voiceless a voice.
Yes.
And the politicians have a voice, but the people getting murdered by the police don't have a voice. The people getting, they're the lesser than us, and that's who we need to be taken care of. And I think that that's kind of what I've dealt with this year is what's depressed me is that people have just operated about what's in front of them and not like looked beyond them. You know, it's easy for Southern Californians to say that all lives matter, but the reality of it is at this moment, Black lives matter because that's who's being oppressed.
Here's my analogy. So Ray said this, she's like, okay, so say there's a row of houses, one of them's on fire. And the fucking police obviously go and try and put out the ones on fire. And then the people of the house that isn't on fire comes out and says, hey, what about my house? It's like, brother, I love you, but your fucking house is not on fire, right? That needs, like, you know what I mean? And then we can, and so again, metaphors it's an old storytelling thing, but just to kind of really get that across, like, we love everyone. And loving and signal boosting what needs healing. It's almost again that's that white blood cells. Like the white blood cells go to where the wound is first. It's not out of hatred of the rest of the body. It's because the wound is there. You know.
Yeah. And I think too as Americans, and I think that's what's really for me is that we forget how much I mean, the way Metallica influenced Gojira. You know, like we influence the rest of the world, and I think that whether we like it or not, and I think that that's something that like. You know, we elect tyrannous fascist rulers and other countries do that. You know, Brazil does that, the Philippines do that. So I think that that's the thing is we just have to think bigger than what we're dealing with right here. And I don't know that we need to feel bad about where we live or who we are or what we're blessed with, but I do think that we need to recognize that if we have something to give, we should give it. You know? Absolutely.
And again, almost coming full circle, like just muscle memory, folks. And it is just now, I actually don't think about it. And I actually pulled up my phone last episode and I'll just do it. Fuck it. I'll do it again now. So again, you just have this thing. It's the Yemen thing, kids dying, you know, every 75 seconds or something, you know, and it's just called Share Your Meal, man.
Yeah, right on.
I just did a gigantic, a reboot of my phone, so I don't have the app, but I did it last episode, which is a few days ago. I'm gonna do it again now. And there's a slider, and like on the screen you can just see the meal piling up, and you can be like,
That's amazing.
15 bucks, it can feed 10 people, 17, and it actually creates a smile, whatever. Amazing psychology engaging, empathy engaging design. So avail yourself of that. All of the links, by the way, for everything. Your awesome surfer friend, I want to put her in the comments too. Signal Boost,
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. Absolutely. Yeah, she'd be
for sure, dude. So yeah, and just like get amongst it. Don't have this again. Resignation is the neighbor of self-victim thinking. Don't resign, like don't give up. Like I always say, like the body is on your side. It breathes for you. Like you don't have to tell it to do that. And it's like life wants you to do things and wants you to engage. So it can be, and I've had some people be like, oh yeah, I just don't engage with that side. And it's like, well, that's how we end up getting fucking the Matrix future, or corporations taking over and stuff. And thank you for keeping perspective, and as you said, that's what you're passionate about. You've connected with what the planet fucking needs. The planet is literally like, thank you, oh my god, I got one, like I got someone to listen to me. So that's really rad, dude. And yeah, so man, I have like work in like 30 minutes. And I could fucking talk with you all fucking day. It is insane, dude. But so I want to ask, what is on for the rest? Actually, before that, thank you for existing, bro. Like, thank you.
Buddy. Yeah, man, I appreciate that. No, it's good. No, I have a little bit of work. It's like 2 o'clock here, so I have a little bit of work. I think probably go first.
Do a surf, man. We'll all be thinking about it. Be like, oh yeah, after that chat, Russell just fucking hanging out. Doing it, man. For sure.
And I think too, like I said, man, thank you for I'll leave you with it. I remember flying home from India. I flew home from India, and from there I went straight to Sweden for a work job or like a little meeting thing. But I remember flying home from India and just wrestling with myself that, did we get this shot? Did we get that shot? Is that shot going to connect with this shot? Is there enough footage to portray this? Did we push hard enough to make this happen? We're like sweating and dripping with sweat, and you're just like, and then talking to Joe, and I'm trying to be like, you feel it? Yeah. And he's like, yeah, man, I feel, like we're back and forth and all this stuff. And it feels nice to have somebody recognize that this like jumble of mess up here that I spattered out onto a bunch of zeros and ones, and then it turned into like a camera. It works on some level.
Yeah. No, and I'll not have anyone like, don't even at me with this. It's like, it was such a fucking pleasure.
Thanks,
I'm just gonna do that fucking, I'm half Italian too. It's like, tu vieni, like you're coming to whatever other shows, man. You have to be back on, and set something aside, maybe late 2022. Come over to Australia, we'll fucking host you, man. And to everyone like watching with obviously, if you haven't seen the Chant, go watch the Chant. Jeez, please go over to russellbrownley.com. Great to grab it, just that .com. The world is future's digital and stuff. And yeah, man, I am going to, what I do is I'll go to your Instagram, see who you're following, man. I'll just fucking do a follow fest.
No worries.
And I tend to send the entire net, which is about 600. I just send the entire network there because, man, again, 360, just every subject, everything, so you can probably tell body language. Like, I don't want to go. I'm going to hang out with this guy. All right, man, have an amazing rest of your day. And happy surfing, and say hi to the kids, I guess, just be like, hey, some random Australian thinks you're cool.
We'll be at it. Yeah, right on. All right, man. Thank you so much for your time. And like I said, if you need help down the road, whatever,
man. All right, connection made. Be well, brother. Till soon.
You too, man. Be well.
See you, man. Bye. What is up, everyone? Albert here. Hope you enjoyed the show. If you wanted to support what I do, all the different endeavors and all that such, there is patreon.com/Albert Kesser. You can sign up to anything from the $1 to the $50 tier. All of the tiers are actually based on the quantum myth, which I am doing as a storytelling endeavor. So, for example, the $5 tier is the kindred tier, and the $8 tier is the resonant tier. Now, resonants are the descendants of the original creator spirit, the Olvisutar in the mythology of the quantum myth. So you would be representing one of those innumerable and yet each unto themselves totally unique spirits
on the Patreon. And another thing is all of the different benefits have various different features. So, for example, the Ulefone tier has a special signed thank you letter, an art postcard, both digital and physical, an Ulefone symbol. I'll actually riff with you and design a custom tattoo type symbol, if you will. Also, there's a monthly Zoom component as well, and also I'd be doing a spoken thank you for any endeavors you have, for example, if it's just yourself, or if you want me to signal boost like a podcast, for example, of yours. Absolutely. So look, folks, as you can hear, this isn't my most natural thing to do, but honestly, it is to signal boost all of you. I want to make this Patreon a creative, collaborative environment, and for you to definitely receive basically art and creativity, and to get something out of it that isn't just sort of following along. It is actually something where you're participative, and it's something truly special and completely unique that you, as someone who has chosen to support me in the form of, I guess you could call it energy in the form of funds, that you have a sense that this is something completely irreplaceable, completely unique for you and to yourself. And the higher tiers actually have custom design merch and stuff like that too. So awesome. Well, there you go, patreon.com/Albert Kesser for any of the outlets I do, and I love each and every one of you. Take good care, and until next time, bye for now.